No matter how old you are, making friends is a tricky business. When you're at school or even at uni, you're sort of surrounded by people roughly your age with a common goal, absorb just enough information to pass this class and daydream about your future. And it's the common ground that lays the foundation for acquaintances to blossom into friends. Plus, when you're younger, you've got the time to get to know someone slowly where a relationship can build naturally. But when you become an adult, you don't get those luxuries. You might have enough in common with people you see at Pilates or school drop-off or work, but who's got the time to road test that relationship? Well, if you have a strategy for this, I would love to hear how you take a friendship out of the acquaintance zone and into the friend zone. And here with some great advice is Christine Bagley-Jones, our resident psychologist. She joins me fortnightly for Head and Heart. Christine, welcome back to Life Matters.
Hi, Tegan.
Why is it hard to move from the acquaintance zone into friendship?
Look, I think this is a really great topic because it's so common, but we don't tend to discuss it. And it's tricky because, we do in life come across many people and can easily strike up rapport and without a lot of effort create that acquaintanceship. But moving it on to a friendship, it involves a whole set of other skills that I think eludes a lot of us.
I think about people who I vibe with and I'm like, I could be friends with you. I could be best friends with you. You're a fun time, but I don't want to be the weirdo who's coming on too strong,
Yeah. And in fact, if you ask me what are the main reasons that hold people back from developing an acquaintanceship into a friendship, that would be number one, because as we get older, we fear rejection more, our ego's more involved. Whereas when we're young, we can be in a playground. I watched my daughter just the other day. We were swimming at a New Zealand on a little holiday that we went on. She was in the pool. Some kid asked her a name, and then the little girl literally said, "Do you want to be friends?" And I was like, that was just so poetic. Why don't we do that as adults? And it's because we feel like there's too much at stake in terms of that fear of rejection.
But I mean, she said, "Do you want to be friends?" She didn't say, "Can you drive me to the airport?" Maybe we put too much pressure on these budding friendships as adults.
Well, that's right also. I mean, there's a lot more at stake, isn't there? It's like when you are an adult and you become a friend, you have responsibilities that go with it. Whereas the kids in the pool, the stakes are low. But that's all the more reason to want to forge acquaintanceships into friendships, because genuine friendships are beautiful and they offer so much in terms of our quality of life. It's not something that we should put in a too hard basket.
It's this thing as well where we talk a lot on Life Matters and just in general at the moment about finding friendships as adults and go and join a run club or go to the gym or, meet people at the playground or whatever. And it's not a bad place to meet people, but it's still a stepping stone towards those relationships turning into friendships. What are the stops along the way, or how do you take that next step?
Yes, well, I think you're right, because we could easily have a program talking about how to meet new people, but that's not what you're asking today. You're saying, assuming I've got some of these people and we get on just fine on a very superficial level, how do I convert this into a friendship? And I think a lot of people think it should just magically happen. It's like, I like you, I really can relate to you. Like you said before, you think, well, shouldn't that be enough? But it's not. And for a meaningful friendship, it's said that you've got to spend 200 hours with a person before you could qualify them as a potential deep friendship. That's a lot. And
who's logging these hours, honestly?
I know. Who's logging the hours? Who came up with that number? It's a fairly well-established number, I guess, and people usually claim we don't have the time to nurture friendships like that anymore. We're so busy with our daily life. And this is where I'd argue it doesn't have to happen overnight. You don't have to log those 200 hours in 1 year. It could take a long time. So one of the mistakes people make around this acquaintanceship conversion to friendship bit is that it should happen faster. And it doesn't. It takes time. And it isn't a passive experience. It's something you've got to be intentional about. You've got to think to yourself, like that person that you met, I really like you. I want to pursue this. And you do that wholeheartedly.
How do you do that without being weird? Do you have some tips? Give me a script, Christine.
I shall. Well, firstly, it's okay to be a bit weird, Tegan. That's the first bit. It's all right to be a little bit weird, because I think when you say weird, you mean vulnerable. I think you mean step outside of the comfort zone a bit and push yourself in a space that adults don't tend to allow themselves to be, where they actually might say, hey, do you want to meet for a coffee sometime? Rather than us always standing in the hallway after our gym workout, exchanging really great little tidbits about our lives. So the first step is identify the people that you do know that are in your life already, that you like enough that you want to explore where it could go, and then be intentional and be willing to showcase a little bit more about who you are. Now, one of the pitfalls is we tend to think oversharing might lead to and enhance the bonding process, but in fact it doesn't. What you need to do is be incremental about how you share who you are and reveal parts of yourself.
You are listening to Life Matters on ABC Radio National. I'm Tegan Taylor. I am with our resident psychologist, Christine Bagley-Jones, for our fortnightly chat, Head and Heart. We're talking about moving a friendship out of the acquaintance zone and into the friend zone. If you have executed this successfully, I would love to know about it. How'd you do it? And Christine, you mentioned a pitfall before. What are some of the other pitfalls people should be avoiding here?
I guess don't assume that it's going to happen overnight, and don't be too sensitive around, the nuances, the way it develops. A lot of people will feel rejected prematurely and make the assumption that the person's not interested in them if they decline the first invitation or they don't seem as proactive. Sometimes it's just about you being proactive, be curious about who they are, ask them more open-ended questions where you're learning about them, but don't fear the fact that if it's not going to progress, there's no great harm there. You just move on. They're not going to be offended about your genuine desire to know them more. It just might not be the right time for them. And then you just move on to the next person.
So let's say it's going well, you're getting on a bit of a roll with a particular potential friend. How do you keep that momentum going?
Well, momentum's key. I love the fact you just said that word, because that's where it falls short. Sometimes we have this little honeymoon phase as you're developing an acquaintanceship, and there's a flurry of interactions, and then it dies off because of the busyness of life, or we've had that little dopamine hit, and now we've neglected the fact that this was supposed to be a slow burn. So what I'd recommend is that you continue to find opportunities to invite that person to events and situations outside of the usual place that you see each other, and then follow up after the event and say things like, I really enjoyed that. Oh, that was so much fun. Hey, I was wondering if you might be interested in this other activity. Also, when you're speaking to them, remember their details, remember the conversation, so you can circle back and say, oh, how did that appointment go? Or you can check in, and then they feel like, wow, this is a bit different. I'm feeling like this is more of a friendship. They're feeling that reciprocity. They're loving the fact that you're celebrating their wins with them. And this starts to nurture something that's more balsam. And be a good friend as well. Like, just be keen to be reliable. Be the person that you would love them to be for you, and see where it goes.
Fantastic advice, as always, Christine. Thank you so much for joining me.
My absolute pleasure. And what I really encourage people to do is not give up, because in life things can get really lonely, and it's not overwhelming to develop the skills and to practice that face-to-face interaction, getting it offline or getting it out of that really staged situation into something organic. I just wanted to share a little moment that I recently hatched for myself, where I organised a little crafternoon at my place. I invited some friends, but I also invited a few people I didn't know so well, with the intention of nurturing something special, and it went well.
That is such beautiful advice. A host a crafternoon. Christine said so. Christine, thank you. As always, Christine Bagley-Jones is our resident psychologist. She joins me fortnightly for Head and Heart. And thank you for your texts too. One says, why do the close friends you thought you had disappear when you leave a 30-year marriage? So difficult to make new friends as a 50-year-old woman, now 70. Well, I hope that some of Christine's tips there have helped you. Another says, I'm in my early 60s. I have very few close friends and many, many acquaintances, and that suits me perfectly.
Think bigger about the world we live in. Ask your smart speaker to play ABC RN.